Goodbye endless trips to the pharmacy, and hello MedSync. All your meds ready for one monthly pickup with no hassle. Give James Drugstore a call to get started.
And welcome back to Group Therapy, episode 13. Unfortunately, for our 13th episode, we are missing David Gray, our lifestyle editor. He is on a much-deserved vacation as we have wrapped up the school year. But, of course, still have my man, the sports editor over here. Going to let him introduce himself real quick. Please go ahead.
Hey, this is Rob DeArmond. I'm the sports editor here at the Livingston Parish News.
And my name is McHugh David, and together we're going to make the dynamic duo that's going to try to fill the gap for David and give you all a good enough show. Hopefully, you won't get too bored too quickly. Got a lot to talk about today with regard to sports. All parish baseball and softball did come out. We're going to talk a little bit about that in a bit. Also, a couple other sports things going on. I want to remind everybody, graduations have wrapped up. Of course, school year has wrapped up as of last week. You can go check out those photos of all those graduations and the lists of the graduates at www.livingstonparishnews.com. And, of course, the last two Thursdays, those names and those photos have run in print, so you can check them out there as well. Please remember you can buy photos of those graduates if you are interested in the ones that are online. Just hit the buy now button on that photograph. Did have a couple of questions, and this involves you, Mr. DeArmond.
Oh boy.
Well, nothing against the LHSAA, but we are restricted from selling the photos that we take at these state tournaments.
That's correct. That is correct.
Yeah, so you were informed of that while you were over there. We did have to disable that. We do apologize, folks, but that is part of the LHSAA's rules, and we can't do anything about that. So please look for them in print. You can go cut them out. We just can't sell them for profit. So you can also request them from us, and we'll see what we can do for you. So getting into the news real quick, not a whole lot of lifestyle stuff going on at the moment because, of course, David on vacation and spent a lot of time at those graduations, ton of them. We do want to thank a couple of photographers who helped us out with a couple of those graduations. I was supposed to do one until I had my second COVID shot and went down pretty hard. And then I couldn't help out the next night because I had a graduate from Denham Springs High School on Friday. But David was able to schedule all those out. Remember, you can check those out on our website. And, of course, they were in print. Getting into the news a little bit, Michael Collins, who was accused and stood trial for murder of a couple here in Denham Springs. Again, he had fled to Kentucky. He was picked up. Well, he was reported there. Someone turned him in. Law enforcement picked him up, shipped him back. He finally faced trial. He will face life in prison. He was accused and found guilty of 2 counts of first-degree murder. Also in the news, Governor John Bel Edwards has again reduced the mitigation efforts against COVID-19. As more and more people get vaccinated, he has now removed the mask mandate. The most recent sort of backing off of the mitigation efforts is we are expecting, as long as there are no more spikes, no masks in school next year. We do have statements from the Bessie Board, that is the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education, as well as the local school board. They're excited about that development. I know this year was very strange. We do have a picture of Superintendent Joe Murphy on the front page, kind of holding out those new thermometers are very strange. They look weird. They look like little guns.
Yeah.
But it was a strange time for kids. But kids, teachers, administration, everybody stepped up, did what they had to do to get through COVID. But it looks like next year going to be a little more normal. Speaking of normal, I've gotten it all out. I was trying to be quick.
No, we're good, man. We're
going to get to Rob. You got to sit down with the baseball and softball coaches to do all parish teams. That's got to feel good.
Which for us, and just to explain how we did this last year when basketball came down, they get through the girls' state championships and then the boys' state championships. If y'all remember correctly, it was just really limited crowds for those championships, and that was when everything kind of hit and everything kind of stops. So I remember getting a text from Coach Skiro, hey, are we still going to do all parish? And it's kind of like, yeah, why not?
Yeah.
But then you have to figure out, okay, how are we going to do this? We threw about the idea of doing a Zoom call, and then eventually we just settled on, okay, let's do it via email, which it took a couple rounds of emails, to get through, okay, here's your nominations, then you get them back, and then you got to tally them up. And I thank my wife for that because she figured it out, and she's like, here we go. And figured that out. But we literally did it via email. Baseball and softball last year, we did not have all parish teams because obviously they did not complete their seasons. So this time around, we started doing softball via email. And when the baseball season ended, everything just kind of fell into place rather quickly with being able to, hey, can we meet here? And I'll just let y'all know we met at Sombreros in Walker. It's kind of a middle ground for everybody, and I thank the folks at Sombreros for hosting us. My role in that process is very limited. I think I just count votes and eat pretty much, and that's pretty much the deal.
Well, then, I mean, you have more work to do. Then you got to go pull photos, interview coaches and players and that kind of thing. But
it's okay. Just for us to be able to sit down there and meet and converse, because a lot of it, we sat and talked, I think, both times for at least an hour just talking. And it's great to see the coaches together. It's really the only time we get a chance to do that, to kind of sit down and just, hey, what's going on? And it's not really about softball or baseball. It's just like, hey, what else is going on? Just to kind of catch up.
And considering sort of the historical context of the all parish teams, I'm going to tell a quick story. When I first came to the news full time post college, we were doing it at Forest Grove Plantation, the all parish banquet, and we would do, if it was a girls and boys sport, so basketball and baseball, softball, we do it all at the same time. And one of the interesting things is every year there's always a little bit of inter-coach politics going on. One time it was I will tell you that it was a baseball softball banquet. I'm not going to tell you which, but we were at Forest Grove. Mike Doty was still alive. It was myself and Mike Doty sitting there. It was about 2:30 in the morning. Folks at Forest Grove were like, please go home. These folks were arguing to the point where we started having some name calling. We started having some aggression there. So we had to talk it out. But, eventually they came through. They realized it's for the kids. And they finished picking their teams. We left at about 3 in the morning. I always like to tell that story because I like to remind people we are mediators on this. The coaches are picking these teams. We don't pick them. We might suggest a player or two, and all we can really do is suggest it. If the coaches are like, no, that's our team, then we back off and
right.
we move forward.
Correct.
But I always thought that was interesting, and especially in the context of what you just said. These coaches were all just so happy to be able to sit down, eat together, and talk. It sounds like you didn't have as much aggression as you used to.
Oh, no. And we kind of joked about it because, it's lunchtime and there were no margaritas involved at all. It was strictly sweet teas and waters, I think, and everybody was good. And it's just, like I said, it's just good to sit down, and it's really the only spot where we get to get everybody or almost everybody in one spot. And you just, I kind of position myself kind of at the center of the table, and you listen to stories of things that kind of happened during the season, and you kind of have a laugh, have a chuckle, and you go, oh, I didn't know that happened, stuff like that. But
right.
It was just really good, and I think everybody was just glad to be able to do it.
Sure. And I mean, it sounds like it. It sounds like it was a good jovial time. Everybody was strictly business. Obviously, no alcohol involved.
No. It could have got real interesting. Then we didn't do that.
So let's start with good.
Yeah.
So let's start with softball. That was the first team that was selected.
Actually, we did baseball first, but it's okay.
You did baseball first.
We did baseball first. Yeah.
Okay.
We started doing softball via the email route.
That's right.
And it sort of, I think we got all the nominations in, but then when I looked at it, baseball kind of fell into place. So then I went back with the softball coaches, and I texted all of them and I said, hey, I think we can get this done quicker if we meet in person. And it just so happened to where things fell just 2 days apart. We did it early. Baseball we did on Tuesday of this week, and then softball we did Wednesday.
Wow!
In the same place. So we did. We wound up. I wound up eating twice this week at Sombreros. So there you go.
Worse things have happened.
Hey, it could be bad, man. I'm not complaining.
So baseball first, as you just informed me. But let's go ahead and cover softball because technically they finished their championships first. Their season
it
ended
doesn't
earlier.
matter. I just want to let you know that's how it went.
Okay,
so.
fair enough. So let's run with baseball. Softball. Cool. Let's run with softball. We do want to remind folks, please go check this out. www.livingstonparishnews.com/sports. It'll be in this Thursday's paper next Thursday.
Next Thursday. I'm trying to get softball first if I can, and this is all predicated on if I can get interviews and things done. I was able to talk to our coach of the year for softball, so it's a matter of getting the story for the MVP right now. So that's what I'm working on. But my goal is to have softball for next week, Thursday.
And we are recording this show on May 27th, so that'll be the first paper in June. I believe it's the 3rd.
I think you're right.
Yes, because the 31st is Memorial Day. That's Monday. So Tuesday would be the 1st, Wednesday the 2nd, Thursday the 3rd. So there we go. So we're only going to cover we're going to cover the MVP and the Coach of the Year. We have defensive and offensive MVPs,
yes.
don't we? Okay, so we're going to cover 3 MVPs and Coach of the Year. So go ahead.
But this is for the softball team. The most valuable player for softball was Lainey Bailey from Walker. Let's see, I'm trying to look at her stats here. 1.37 ERA, 187 strikeouts in 114 innings, 22-2 record. That is in the circle. She also had 20 home runs and 43 RBIs.
Quite a utility knife.
Yeah, that's and so when you look at MVP, most valuable player on both sides, that's how she helped Walker, and that was pretty much a. I shouldn't maybe consensus, but it was kind of like, okay, yeah, that's where everything needs to be with her. So defensive MVP, Elise Jones from Doyle. If you guys have followed Doyle for the past 5-6 years, Elise is a mainstay there at third base. I've heard it many times say defensively she's a vacuum over there. Not many errors, and just solid player. She's going to go to Southeastern. Another case where I think that the coaches voted on it, and it's kind of close, but she winds up getting the most votes when they vote on it. Offensive most valuable player is Taylor Douglas from Holden. I'm going to call up her stats here because these are once again we have some impressive stats if I can find them here real quick. 27 home runs is what stands out for sure.
Yeah.
She hit one. If you guys were in Sulphur, she hit in the semifinal game. She hit a ball that landed on a dugout on an adjacent field.
No.
Yeah, it was.
You love those. You hear the heads up, and then you hear the loud bang.
And luckily nobody was on that field, but you just hear that loud crash. And where we were sitting, it was like you kind of go, well, you got to be kidding me. And then they're like, oh, she does this all the time. Taylor Douglas. Okay, she was 26-8 in a circle, 173 strikeouts. A 935 fielding percentage, batted .547, 17 doubles, 3 triples, 27 home runs, and 61 RBIs.
Wow.
Very solid season, and
some impressive ladies on.
She's
this
a sophomore, and it's one of those things when you start looking at the people, especially when you look at the infielders, when the names start coming out and the stats, you just kind of go, okay, this is going to be fun. Y'all enjoy. And I kind of let the coaches go, and then we start voting and stuff starts happening. Our coach of the year is Blake West from French Settlement. He was able to guide his team to the state tournament. And the cool thing about that team is they only had one senior. A lot of young players helping them get there. And I think the goal for them at the end of that thing, you kind of look at it and go, okay, we lost, but they weren't really, you always want to win, but they weren't really upset. It was kind of like, okay, we've got here. We know we can compete here now. So I think in their future, that's kind of what they're planning on. They want to go back, and
sure,
just
who wouldn't,
and in talking to Blake, part of the deal is that, because I asked him and nobody had been, before the tournament. I told him, I said, I'm not trying to scare you. I'm just trying to say when you get to Sulphur, that atmosphere can get to you, and he kind of laughed about it when we talked about it the other day. He said, yeah. He said, you were telling me, and when we got there, yeah, it's exactly, kind of the deal, getting used to it. But now they have it under their belt, and like I said, most of that team's coming back. So that's the goal for them is to try to get back to where they were.
And a lot of returning starters, a lot of
Yes.
chance to do that. So
Absolutely.
again, a lot of impressive ladies on that list. Don't forget, please be looking for that in print. Of course, also it'll be online. There'll be individual stories about those players plus the full team. Let's change gears. Not too much, technically, just heading over to the boys' side,
Yeah.
and let's talk about baseball. Let's start off with the MVP.
We wound up with a dual MVP because once they put these guys up, it was kind of like you could see exactly where both of these guys helped their teams get to where they were. I don't have stats for these guys. I kind of, I had the softball on the email, so I was able to pull those up. But we wind up with Caleb Webb from Walker and Blaze Priester from Live Oak is our co-MVPs. If you remember Caleb, he was kind of down the stretch for Walker. He winds up starting in that semifinal game against West Monroe. Like I said, that all the runs in that game were scored in the first inning. It was 3-1. Kind of settles in, and he was key for him also at the plate. Hit a couple key home runs down the stretch, and then during that playoff run to kind of get him there. It's the same thing with Blaze. He's got home runs, key home runs, but a lot of key hits at times for Live Oak during this season. And once he started going, it kind of jump started them a little bit, And again, for them, it was the stunner was always losing the first round. That's what they'll go back to. But Blaze was one of those key guys that kind of helped them get to where they were. Defensive MVP was Cade DuPont from Live Oak. It just in talking to the coaches and everything, he was just solid for them all year, just steady, all year long, and deserving of the honor for them. The offensive most valuable player, it was kind of consensus, Blaze Priester. Everybody just kind of said, that's the guy. Just kind of nodded their heads and just said, when they put him up, it's kind of like, y'all good, everybody good, and everybody kind of agreed that was who it needed to be. And co-coaches of the year.
Okay.
We got Tim Beattie from Doyle and Coach Sandifer, Randy Sandifer from Walker. That was one of those things where you put both of them up and you kind of look at it and go, you can't put one of those guys over the other.
Yeah, and those were the two guys that went to the tournament.
Both of those teams made it to the tournament, and both under different circumstances. I think for Doyle, it was that's where they wanted to be the entire time. And for Walker, I've talked about this all the time. This group of kids who was seniors, I remember a couple years ago in Metro Ball as sophomores, taking some lumps, trying to figure it out. But these are the same guys who stuck with the program, stuck with what they were doing, started to grow, started to get better. And, it paid off for them by, getting to go to the state tournament.
Right. So, big seasons for both of those teams. Didn't quite end the way they wanted it to, but still, great years for both of them. And, we talked a lot about all of those teams that went to the tournament. Please go check out some earlier shows under the group therapy category. We had, especially the last 2 or 3 weeks, spent a lot of time talking about baseball and softball because a lot of those teams, it's tough. That's a grind. That season starts earlier than people think.
Yeah.
It usually starts early February. And, I don't want to say it drags on into May, but, and they're not playing 162 games like the majors. But when you start getting into May, it's tough. It starts getting hot. You start having to really pull from the tank. So going to Sulphur is tough.
To me, and it always seems like it's like, guys, we just started this thing. We should, and the season goes about 8 or so weeks, maybe a little bit more, but it is so condensed, and you're playing so many games all the time. Almost every day you're playing, and you get to that last week. If you guys remember right, the week before that last week of the season, I know for baseball it was a lot of rain.
Right.
A lot of rainouts. I don't think many teams played. So it turned into a grind for just about everybody to where they're playing a game, at least one game every day, sometimes more, and especially when they're district games,
Yeah.
So it's not like you can just blow a game off or anything like that. So that they're in the crunch and they're coming down to it. And it always amazes me. It's like we just started and it ends like that. I think it's the fastest seasons there are, baseball and softball, because they just go so quickly.
And a lot of it has to do with, that transfer from basketball, in the winter sports.
Right.
Because you still kind of feel like when baseball and softball are starting, you still kind of feel like it's wintertime,
Yeah.
We're still in the winter sports, right? But, like you said, it's 8 weeks. It's February through the end of April, kind of in early May sometimes. But, I mean, it's quick.
And for us, this is a tip of the hat to the basketball teams. We usually got somebody going on a deep run, boys and girls in basketball, so it kind of carries over, and you don't realize, you're already into maybe 4 or 5 weeks in the baseball season and softball season by the time you can actually focus all your attention onto that. And that stuff you just roll with it. You don't think about it.
Right. And I don't want to say anything. I'm not saying anything negative about football. We have some teams that go and some don't. But the transfer from football and cross country and all that into basketball and indoor track is not as tumultuous.
Right. Right.
Because I think a lot of times Thanksgiving kind of gives you a little breath. Some of these guys are playing tournaments and stuff, but they're usually away. We get those calls. You kind of have a week. Then you sort of roll into the real basketball season, the meat of it. Whereas with baseball, softball, it's like, boom. It's basketball and indoor track are over. It's time for track and baseball, softball.
It's always the most interesting transitionary part of the year because there is just so much going on where you just stop and go, okay, where do we go now?
Right.
where you got to go. It's just figuring out how to get there.
Right. But now we're into camp season as well as, and I won't forget it this week, we got Metro baseball, Metro basketball, and 7-on-7.
Yes.
7-on-7 I forgot last week. So be on the lookout for that. To wrap the show up, got a couple of coaching news points to talk about before we let you guys go. So go ahead, just jump into it.
And I'm going to keep this really brief just to let you guys know. Coach Jamie Gautreaux at French Settlement is stepping down. He's been there for a while coaching baseball, and when I talked to him, his reasoning for stepping down, it's not really complicated. You don't have to think about it a lot. He has a son who goes to East Ascension, and he's going to be a sophomore, and he just wants to be able to see his son play baseball. Which I can totally relate. I'm kind of in the same boat. I've got a son who's he's playing high school ball over at Hammond High. I don't mind telling y'all that. I'll let y'all know. And any chance I get a chance to see him, that's what I'm going to go do. I told my coaches that during the spring, and I think everybody just told me that's what you need to do.
Right.
So there was nobody who I didn't get
they only go through high school and play ball once.
They get it one time, and that's it. And that's what I'm trying to impart to my son. I soak it up, man. Enjoy it, have fun. Because this is stuff you'll be, when you 20 years down the line, you guys will be talking about this. So enjoy it. The other coaching change is Gabby Phelps has been hired as the softball coach at Marpaw. She played at Louisiana Lafayette. She's helped with the junior high programs over there at Marpaw, and she's going to be taking over as the head coach.
Well, congratulations to Coach Gautreaux on a retirement. Is it permanent?
No, he's still going to be around, athletic director, and he's still available. He said, I'll help out wherever they need me to help out. If it's, junior high basketball, whatever. He's actually going to be coaching the team during the summer. He sent me their Metro schedule this morning. So
okay.
He's going to be handling that over the summer. So.
Okay. And congratulations to Miss Gabby.
Yes,
there in
correct.
So we appreciate you guys joining us. We did miss Mr. David Gray, but again, on a much-deserved vacation. I imagine sometime during the summer when usually Metro League and all that lasts through June, and then July is kind of the, okay, deep breath before we jump back into it next year. So I imagine you'll be taking one here.
I'm
going to
try to. We're doing my son's doing travel ball too this summer, so that's we're trying to turn those into kind of mini vacations. But hopefully we'll get to a point where we can take one and just say, all right, I'm taking this time off, and we'll
you go.
It might be all baseball, but that's okay.
We'll soak it up.
We'll do it. We'll do it. Enjoy it.
So we'll have David back in the booth next week. Mr. DeArmond, if you would, introduce yourself.
Hey, this is Rob DeArmond. I'm the sports editor here at the Livingston Parish News.
And my name is McHugh David, publisher and editor of the news. Appreciate you guys joining us for the Group Therapy episode 13. We're getting our feet up underneath us. We're doing a little bit better every time. Please remember that we are on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. We are once a week in print on Thursdays at $7 a month to get that in your mailbox. We're also online, www.livingstonparishnews.com. You can find these podcasts anywhere you get your podcast from. That's Apple Podcast, Google Play, even on Spotify. If you'd like, we are there. Thank you to Anchor FM for distributing this podcast. Want to let folks know, please remember, go check it out. We sat down with Mr. Gary Frog Talbert On Monday, we had 2 come out of those. We try to keep him under 30 minutes, so sometimes we got to divide him up a little bit, but we got to talk about dirt fill as well as millages here in the parish. We're going to be sitting down this afternoon with Giovanni Tyroff, who is the director of the library system. He's going to be talking about his millage, which, of course, Parish Councilman Shane Mack is looking at that and salivating about his new drainage district. We talked about that with Mr. Gary Frog Talbert, too. Going to be talking with Mr. Tyrov about that. Finally, we have Mr. Jason Populus from the city of Dim Springs. He'll be coming and talking about their certified response program that they developed for disasters. He'll be in tomorrow morning to talk about that. So appreciate you guys joining us. Please be on the lookout for these episodes as they come out weekly. And thank you, Mr. Yarman, for taking the time today.
Thank you.
And we will see you guys next time.